Welcome to Marketing MASH, brought to you by themarketingscope.com.
First of all, thank you and welcome to the Marketing MASH. It's our video podcast series. I have Shelly Kramer with us today, and I'm Eric Vidal. Today we have a special guest. It's Ursula Ringham. She's the Director of Digital Marketing at SAP. And today we're going to talk about storytelling and how that plays into marketing's role and really how it's changed. Marketing has changed. You know what, Ursula? I'm going to go ahead and give off a quote that you gave us the other day. And if I get it off, if I'm off, please correct me if I'm wrong. But the role of marketing is changing. I think you were quoting Seth Godin. But it's about the stories you tell, not about the products you create. And so tell me what you mean by that or what you see behind that quote.
Sure. It's all in the storytelling. It's in making that emotional connection. People today want to buy from other people. So they want to buy that experience. They want to see, if they're looking at a product, they want to see someone who's using it or get their opinion about it. And so looking at marketing from years ago where you just have a product and you're just marketing it, it's changing. And in the digital age now, with all the different social media and digital platforms, you have to evolve to it and you have to tell that story. And, where I work, our story is about how our products improve people's lives, and they actually do. We're a technical company and we have business software, but our products enable businesses to change people's lives. And so it's all about the storytelling. And if you're not telling a story, people are probably not going to listen. So,
I'll play devil's advocate here for just a minute and say that I think marketing's always been about storytelling. And think back to, I just happened to go straight in my mind to the days of the Marlboro Man, who was macho and handsome and all that sort of thing. And that story was, if you wanted to be macho, you smoked. Or have you ever run across those vintage ads that talk about, that were from the 50s or the 60s that told stories about, how women should act or what made the perfect man or lifestyle having to do with cocktails or whatever. So I would suggest that marketing has always been about storytelling. The challenge today is more about, in storytelling of yore, we used to tell those stories in very traditional channels, and there weren't that many of them. There was TV, there was print, there was radio. That today, there's so many different options that not only do you have to be able to tell a good story, it has to be in some ways experiential. Like to your point about people want to be a part of the experience, and it has to be omni-channel. And so I'll toss it back to you.
No, definitely. And I think that it's changing with people. People are the ones that are now selling the products. And, a lot of people talk about this today, but you have to be your own brand. You are your product. You are your brand. And, there's a lot of, employee advocacy and, at big companies, should employees get out there and be selling it and how do they sell it? And I kind of look at it as, yes, that's part of your role, but you as a person, you have to have your own story yourself, regardless of whatever company you work for. Mm-hmm. And, through social media, we all tell our own story of who we are. Like with Eric and Shelly, I've never personally met you, but I'm following you on social media and I'm gradually learning your story.
Oh,
I'm learning what you're about. You've got a husband that's very attentive and provided you with all this nutritional, cocktails and muscle milk. And I think it's more authentic. It's more transparent. So getting back to your point about traditional storytelling with advertising, those were manufactured. They wanted you to feel a certain way, that you'd be macho, right? And I think you can't do that as much. People will see through that these days because they know what the products really do because their friends are talking about it or they're talking about it.
Well, Ursula, let me jump in real fast. So, all good points. And nowadays, everything's moving so fast too. So you have to be able to you have to have your team,
Definitely.
your whole marketing, sales, customer service team know that story, know the brand promise, and be able to give it every day, sometimes multiple times, right? So it's not just the handful of marketing people in the agency, people coming together, creating those stories, and then letting it all play out in the traditional media vehicles like print, radio, and TV. But let's go back a little bit with SAP and talk about some of the things that your brand used to do in traditional vehicles. And I was a big fan years ago because you weren't just having the marketers tell the story. You were letting your customers tell the story. And sure, you were helping, but and I'm going back, I don't know how long ago now, 9-10 years. And let's see if my memory it serves me well. But was it Brazilian soccer runs on SAP? XYZ government runs on SAP. This company runs on SAP. It just seemed more believable. It was more real. And so even leveraging traditional vehicles, you can still be authentic and real. And I think your brand was doing it a long time before social media even came around.
Sure. And, it also relates to the products. I'll give you a great example. With the Women's Tennis Association, we have products that are in real-time analytics of they can look at the player's swing and the coach can analyze that and tell them how they need to tweak it a little bit and change it. And that's kind of like this real-time in motion, things are happening and it's making that tennis player a better person. And we have that tennis pro can tell that story of, wow, I've been using this product now with my coach and look how far I've improved over like the last year of doing it. And so we've always, as you said, been about storytelling. And like, I think we're kind of shifting a little bit where like, our company runs on SAP, which is fine. Yeah, that still happens. But now it's like we're infusing these products that actually, people are really using because, how many people are using inventory management out there versus like this tennis player? Tennis player would never use a product for inventory management, but now they're, SAP's products are actually improving their lives. So it is, storytelling. Yes, SAP's always done that, and we've done it actually quite well. What I do for my job is I'm always looking for customer stories. And it's really cool. I'll hear about the weirdest stories. Like there was some kind of manufacturer of this insulation. And I'm like, insulation for what? And it's like the pipes that, the big Exxon uses or whatever for drilling. And I turned to my husband and I said, who would ever think to make that, right? And there's always these products out there, and maybe it's not sexy, but it has a purpose. And if you can tell the story correctly to gain people's attention, they can learn from it and then go, wow, I can relate to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think especially the bigger your brand is, the more people tend to think, they don't do anything that's applicable to me. And like to your story about tennis and how big data can impact the game of tennis, it's about telling the SAP brand story in a way that effectively reaches that audience. And I think that's what's exciting as a brand strategist, as a marketer, to be able to figure out how we can tell those customer stories, how we can reach those audiences, whether they're people who make pipes or people who play tennis, teach tennis, that sort of thing. I think that's exciting.
Yeah. And I'll tell you a funny story that, because my mind, I'm a very creative, and wherever I'm at, I'm kind of like, how could we turn this into some kind of story? And we're up skiing this week. It's ski week. And on the weekend, we're on the mountain here at Kirkwood Mountain Resort in Tahoe. And we demoed these brand new skis. Very, very cool. And we're out there and my husband's like, we got to get these. So he gets on his phone and he contacts his person at Backcountry, I think is the retailer. And he's got a person there checking, and he's like, hey, can you check the inventory? So the guy goes, checks the inventory. Hey, we can get this to you by Wednesday. And we're like, we want it by Wednesday because the storm's coming. We want the new skis. And I'm just sitting there going, how crazy is that he's on the chairlift, he's placing the order on his phone, the rep is checking the inventory, and we're supposed to have them today,
Right.
That's kind of a cool story, right?
But that happens.
It happens.
No matter where you are. I have the similar story. My husband and I were in the Virgin Islands this last week, and we were in a store, and we're always searching for the perfect cooler. And I happened to see this cooler in a little tiny shop tucked away in a little corner of an island, and it's called an ice mule cooler. And it's like a wet bag if you're a surfer or something like that, but that keeps your gear dry, or dry bag, I guess is what I want to call it. But anyway, it's insulated and it looks cool and it's gray, which is my favorite color. And, so here I am, like your husband, pulling out my phone. And what I was comparing was, what's the price of this product in the store compared to what I can find it on Amazon? And what other options are available? And is this the right size for me, or is there a different size? And the other thing was, I'm a big fan of shopping local, but I didn't want to schlep this home with me. So, before we had left the store, I had placed the order on Amazon. And by the time we got home from the Virgin Islands, there's our new cooler ready for the next vacation. So knowing that your customers are making purchase decisions like that, and helping them along the way on that path to purchase is the challenge that befalls marketers like us.
So
Exactly.
Ursula, how does content like blogs, tweet chats, videos, how does it play into the storytelling from your perspective? I mean, because you're the director of digital at SAP, can you give us some examples from that perspective?
Yeah, there's so much noise out there, and how do you stand out? As we mentioned before, with customer stories, videos are very impactful, but you can't have a 10-minute video. It has to be kind of this snackable content, maybe 2 to 3 minutes at the most. And you have to grab the audience the first, 20 seconds. What is it about this video? And so, the content that you have out there, you have to figure out for your strategy what's going to work best for your company. And video and photos are so impactful right now. Blogs are very good too, but I think with blogs, you have to then point to something else within the blog. You need to, video once again, or having images there. I think the extension span of people these days is so short. And I know for myself, up in the morning, I always check all my different social channels, and I check the news, and I'm very interested. And if the story doesn't grab me in the first, minute, I'm going to either skim through it or not complete it. And so the content, if you have like a tweet chat or even have like a blab like this, it has to be interesting storytelling. What's your theme? What's your topic for this whole series? We're on this marketing mashup. And so in that respect, content is so important. And, with resources, you don't have a wealth of resources to do everything on the planet. So maybe you do throughout the year a video a quarter, but then you do like 4 blabs a quarter. And 4 blogs a quarter, and then you use social media, of course, and whatnot. So the role of content today is definitely changing. Like I was mentioning to someone the other day, you can't just have a website anymore. Websites are so boring and passe. Websites, you can point people there to get more information, but people, for my community, they want to be on social and engage with other people and hear people's opinions and understand things, and then they'll go to the website. Right. So you have to have a combination of things. So content is still very important, but I think, live streaming is kind of the game changer in 2016, because people want to be able to see people and hear their opinions, and then they'll go look at that blog, or they'll go look at that website for more information.
Well, let's go back a second. You mentioned live streaming. I know during the week before the Super Bowl, SAP put on a large initiative, and some of our friends and coworkers were involved in that. Can you give maybe the audience a little bit of background on that initiative?
Yeah. So I came up with this simple idea of let's do some live streaming from Super Bowl City. SAP was a sponsor of the NFL and the Super Bowl host committee. So we had a big area in Super Bowl City where we had the activation zone. And so people could come in, and we had kind of the celebrity football players there that would come on stage. We'd have bands come there, cheerleaders, whatever it be. And then we had these activation centers where you could put on these virtual reality glasses. You could pretend to be Cam Newton. You could also then, in these other activation zones, you could be running, and it's this virtual experience. And so what I proposed is let's set up two co-hosts. You guys know them, Dan Newman and Brian Fanzo, in the middle of this, and let's do some live streaming from Super Bowl City. Because the whole idea is that we want to show the world that SAP is an innovative company. We're using new forms of media, but also we're kind of, with our partners, the leaders in the digital transformation of companies, right? And so, the model was that every day we had different partners that would sponsor content, and the content was all thought leadership, and they had 4 shows a day, and they were on, lots of different topics for if you're migrating to the cloud, talent management. And the crazy thing was that our hashtag we used was SB50 Disrupt, and it became the second trending hashtag around the Super Bowl. So you had the SB50 was the main one, but then ours was next. And mind you, it was a little further down than the top one. But still, it was pretty cool. And people started to tag onto it. Anything about around the Super Bowl, I would see some sweat clothes, whatever, they were advertising on social media, and they would put SB50 Disrupt on it. So, overall what happened was we made an impact because we had these 4 blabs a day, and then we had periscopes around it. And Brian and Dan did such a great job of kind of showing what was happening at Super Bowl City. And, we're in the cradles of innovation in Silicon Valley and San Francisco. So why not broadcast live and kind of be in the moment? And so that was something new. It's something that big brands haven't done, and we were quite successful with it. So moving forward,
not just big brands, but big brands from the B2B side, right?
From the B2B side, exactly. And so, moving forward, we're looking at doing more of these types of shows around, obviously, marketers know trigger events, but, SAP has such a foothold in the sponsorship side of things with the sports. And as I mentioned before, with tennis, we're in there, we're already doing things. And so this is just an extension of telling that story. Instead of having a blog now about a tennis player, why don't we do a Periscope interview with them at a tournament and talk to them about how it works? Because I think people would be interested in watching that. And it's that authentic person to person or human to human interaction that people like to be part of.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's a great example. So I know you're a storyteller professionally. You're also a storyteller. Oh, we lost Kelly. We'll get her back.
You're divulging all my secrets, Eric.
Well, you're a storyteller in person as well. You want to share a couple? Give us a little insight on what you do from a personal perspective when it comes to honing those skills.
So I guess besides my full-time job, what I do as a digital marketer at SAP, at night I write, and I'm a thriller mystery writer, a published author. I write about the insidious side of Silicon Valley. So watch out, you might show up in one of my books, but it's something that I really enjoy. It's I have a lot of passion for writing, and it's just a lot of fun. So I'm working on my 3rd book right now, and I won't go into too many details, but I really enjoy it. And it's all in the storytelling.
That sounds exciting. Make sure you keep us, updated on that. And we can maybe do some teasers on the Marketing Scope. We're one of the sites that we're part of, and we can make sure that we keep our audience engaged. Just reminded me, there's a book here. Let me get Shelley back in here. There was a book that came out just a while back, and I'm aging myself here, but The Nudist on the Night Shift, I think is what it was called.
Nudist on the Night Shift. Okay. And
I may be off on this. The Nudist something, and it was a writer he wrote for a few different magazines. I think he wrote for one of the newspapers in San Francisco. He also wrote for Wired and a couple of tech magazines. But he did a book on, I don't know if it was the insidious side of Silicon Valley, but just the weird, unique stories about how this company got funded, how this, and all these different stories about some, tech espionage that was going on. But there was always this story or this character he came across through all the storytelling people were doing. And he found out about this coder that only when he would code and when he was on fire, he had to be nude. And so he couldn't do it from home for whatever reason, because this was back in 99, what have you. So he would always come in on the night shift. He would work from around 11 to 6 a.m. or midnight to whatever.
Because he had to be nude in the office.
Yeah, and his boss said, you can't do that during regular shift.
I'd love to sit on his chair during the day.
Ooh. That's funny because that sounds like an engineer or coder at Apple. I used to work at Apple, and you'd get all types of different types of people there, which made the environment very fun. And this was years ago when Steve Jobs had just come back. It was a very different company than it is today. But I remember there was a gentleman who didn't want to wear shoes. And back then it was like, okay, so we had the guy who didn't want to wear shoes. We had the jugglers at lunch. We had the guy who was wearing the kilt. And it was just normal. That's just what Apple was like back then. But all of those people had a story to tell. And it's very interesting. So my mind is always attuned to looking at those stories. And I think it relates well with my day job at SAP, because I'm always trying to push the envelope and find new ways of telling a story.
Well, we can't wait for that book to come out. So
one thing I want to touch on, going back to your point about SB Disrupt, SB50 Disrupt, the important thing I think for brands to understand, especially B2B brands, is that a lot of times you can't do this yourself, or it can take a long time to be able to do it yourself. And part of your success, I think, with some of these initiatives have been to tap influencers, because, and I would say this, whether your influencers happen to be associated with me or not, but my point is, influencers bring with them their communities and, their Periscope followings, their Twitter followings, their Facebook friends, their LinkedIn communities, whatever. And it takes a village. It takes a village to make things like this work. And so sometimes when brands go down this path, any Joe Schmo brand could have showed up at the Super Bowl and decided to do live streaming and to try to replicate what you did. But they might not have had anybody paying any attention to them had they not done the work and built their own digital footprints, their own networks, used or not used influencers as needed. And I think that's a lot of time when it comes to content of any nature, whether it's your blog content, your YouTube content, any content, that brands, sometimes even very big brands, don't understand. There's a lot of great content out there that nobody consumes. And
I absolutely agree with you. And I think the one thing that's important is, coming from like a big brand myself, is I'm in the community. I have been in this for like 3 years when I say
immersed.
I've been immersed in it, and I track things, and I hate to say stalk people, but I kind of watch everything. And then once I'm immersed in the community, with like Dan and Brian, who I use for SB50 Disrupt, I was tracking them for over a year and a half before I even made contact with them.
Right.
And I think the important thing for brands to do is don't just go off recommendations. You have to be, infused in that community and do your research, because I went to the Periscope Summit, which was, they turned it into Summit Live. And I saw a lot of these, maybe people that were big on YouTube, or maybe they were big in, Snapchat, and now they were coming in and they're looking at maybe Blab and Twitter and trying to build their presence there. But then you look at, what do they have to offer? Well, they were maybe a model on Instagram that has a ton of followers, but does that map to, so what? But does that map to, exactly, does that map to my needs? Right? It doesn't. But I think, some brands, they will quickly make a decision because they see, oh, this person has 200,000 Twitter followers. But then you look at it, how many were they paid for? How many, what are they actually promoting? So brands need to be careful with that, and they have to do their research. But that is definitely a part of digital marketing, how it's changing the game.
And I think there are a lot of marketers that are, at the middle and senior levels like you, that aren't participating. And they're, I don't have time for Facebook, or I don't want to learn how to live stream or whatever. And I think that you bring such a competitive advantage to the table when you walk the walk, you talk the talk, you're out there building relationships, you're watching things in real time, you understand, because of your involvement, what's real, what's not. and you really understand where your customers are and what conversations are happening and where they're happening. And Snapchat may be great, and it is great, but are my buyers there? And really understanding that is something that I think not many marketers today, and by the way, probably for many of the people watching this now or later, you do get it. But the problem is, I think for a lot of marketers, they're not really immersed in the space and they're not participating. So kudos to you for rolling up your sleeves and doing the work, because it really makes a huge difference.
Well, it also, it's just my personality. I love exploring and I love new technologies and I love connecting with people. And it's fun. Like, a year ago, tweet chats were the big thing. And, I got down my skills on typing, 140 characters or less, right? Getting that out there. And so now you have the Blab format where you got to kind of turn that, and you have to, and I know that, Google Hangouts was out there before then, but you have to kind of evolve with that. And you have to be someone that you're not afraid to talk, to engage.
Or to be on camera.
Or to be on camera, exactly. Actually, and so that's kind of getting back to our theme here for the day. Our topic is that's how digital is changing marketing. Is you need someone like perhaps myself is I'm immersed in it. I'm going to be talking, I'm on a panel at Social Media Marketing World, and you need those type of spokespeople that can share their knowledge and help other brands understand how digital is changing today and how they need to evolve with it.
Right. I mean, you have to be kind of a Jack or Jill of all trades now because of digital. You have to be very multi-talented.
Definitely. It's kind of one of those things. You have to be a writer, editor. Being able to be on camera. There's so many different things. Think on the spot. And I think that's the power of live streaming. We had one during SB50 Disrupt. We had one of our analysts on, Ray Boggs from IDC. And he's someone that no one's really seen in front of the camera because he's always behind with the reporting and everything. He had the fabulous personality. And he was hitting all these marks. And Brian and Dan were like, this guy is great. And it shows that authentic side. So then people go, well, this guy, who I can relate to him. I want to check out what he's doing. And so I think it is a vehicle to really expand or reach a new audience and take that maybe old content that no one has been looking at, as you referenced, Shelley, and get it out there and have people read it.
Well, and it can certainly give you a competitive advantage when it comes to the competition, because these are things, I'm much like you, and I think there's an adventuresome spirit. There's a love of change and experimentation, and when you're wired that way, and those are things that you love, I think it gives you an advantage as an individual, as a marketer, and the things that you can deliver to your clients or in the course of your job and everything else. And so from a brand standpoint, when you can rush to embrace these things and you don't have to jump over a million barriers or internal objections because people are afraid of these things, I think you're just in such a much better position. And this is a competitive, this is especially the stuff that you guys are doing, cloud and mobility and all of those things. This is, everybody wants a piece of this space, and that's not going to change anytime soon. So I think that when you can really get out there like you guys have, it makes a huge difference.
Definitely.
You.
Yeah.
Ursula, thank you so much for sharing your stories about storytelling in the digital age. We really appreciate it. And for all the folks who are with us live, this will be archived on themarketingscope.com tomorrow morning. Thank you once again, Ursula. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Ursula.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. I'll see you later.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
That's it for this episode of Marketing MASH. You can share your thoughts by following us on Twitter and Facebook. Subscribe to our podcast to keep up with the show. And of course, you can always find us by visiting themarketingscope.com.